Colts Jets. Anthony Richardson's back, baby. He's so back. Dalton hates to hear it. What a game from Anthony Richardson.
Good week for the Florida Gators, wasn't it?
It always is, brother. No, I'm just kidding. It's not. 28-27 is the score. Well, was the score from this one. Indianapolis gets the win. Top 5 graded Indianapolis Colts in this one. Cornerback Jalen Jones, an 83.7. Jalen's had a funny year. I feel like he's either like number one on this list or he's one of the lowest.
You already know
players.
why this happens.
With Jalen?
Yeah.
Why?
Because you ripped him for wearing number 40. This is still on you.
No, I already paid for that. What are you talking
You're
about?
still paying for it. Absolutely.
No, I already paid for that one. I'm just saying he's volatile as a corner. That's all I'm trying to say. He had a great game this past week. I'm giving him his kudos.
Now he's just like any other corner.
I just said he has a high ceiling. He's playing well. He's number one on this list, 83.7. Wide receiver Josh Allen's an 83.0. Edge rusher Kwity Paye, an 82.7. Edge rusher Latu with a 78.7. Then offensive tackle Braden Smith, a 74.1. Quarterback Anthony Richardson, an 80.1 in this game. On the Jets side of things, defensive tackle Quinnen Williams, he had an 83.8 overall grade in this one. Guard John Simpson, an 81.5. Defensive tackle Javon Kinlaw, an 81.4. Center Joe Tittman, a 73.9. Linebacker Quincy Williams, a 72.3. Quarterback Aaron Rodgers struggled in this one, a 48.4 overall grade here in this one. Jets now 3-8, currently in possession of the number 7 overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. Just not a good football team right now, but had the ability to win this game. And honestly, it was Anthony Richardson who, that last drive was brilliant and won them the football game. But I'll start there. You know what? I'm just going to start there. Colts explosive plays. That was the stat that told the story for me, because I don't totally want to open up this box. Maybe I'm about to. I don't want to go back into the Joe Flacco decision, but when you made the choice to bench Anthony Richardson, there were a lot of reasons of what it could have been. Did Jim Irsay step in and was like, okay, we got to get Richardson out of there. He's not consistent enough. He's not winning us football games. We got to get Joe Flacco in. He's the veteran. He's won a Super Bowl before. He knows to do it. Was this an Irsay thing? Was it a players-led thing because Anthony Richardson tapped the helmet and took himself out? Did players lose respect for him at that point? Is that the reason why he was benched? You could talk about his play because he was certainly playing inconsistent. I want to make sure that we're truthful about that. He was not playing as efficient as he needed to be or could have been, but giving up on him I think would have been a little silly. So he sits the bench for a couple of games, and it's very clear, and I thought this was very silly for people who were caping for Joe Flacco to be the one to start. It was like, oh, okay, well, this team makes the playoffs with Joe Flacco. And then we had 2 games where Joe Flacco very clearly was not a playoff caliber quarterback. It just was not this guarantee that I think a lot of people were just saying oh, if you put in Joe Flacco, could the offense be a little bit more on schedule? Yes, was never going to deny that. But to think that, if you are one Joe Flacco move away from making the playoffs, I thought was kind of silly. And when Joe Flacco became the starter, there was not enough explosive plays in the offense, in my opinion. Anthony Richardson gets back out there. Boom, explosive plays are back. Last 2 weeks before, when Joe Flacco was starting, 5 explosive plays, 6 explosive plays. This past week with Anthony Richardson, 9. It's a major difference maker. When you have 3 and 4 more explosive plays of 20 yards or more, you have a better chance to win the football game. Average depth of target was either a yard or 2 yards higher this week than what it was over the last 2 weeks with Joe Flacco. It was so much more of a dynamic and explosive offense with Anthony Richardson. And to me, that's the stat that told the story, because they don't win this game without Anthony Richardson. They don't win this game with Joe Flacco. It would have been more of a, wow, okay, it would have been a little bit back and forth, a little less volatile for the Colts, maybe, but they would not have had the juice to win the football game. And that has been my thing about Richardson the whole time, especially when it comes to him versus Flacco. I think a lot of people got frustrated. Okay, Anthony Richardson versus maybe what he could be or should be is a different conversation than him versus Flacco. The him versus Flacco, to me, did not make a lot of sense, and I think the numbers this past week, especially with the offense going well, showcase that. But even in the games where the Colts have lost, even in the frustrating, inconsistent, inefficient Anthony Richardson games, the big-time throws, the explosive plays, it's still there. That gives you a chance to win the game. And I think you need that, and I think that was the stat that told the story here in this game.
Yeah, I mean, well, here's what I'll say. I don't know that Flacco wouldn't have beat the Jets.
Get out of here.
There's no...
Flacco's not making that last drive. He's not making that last drive like Richardson.
Well, against a Jets team covering like this, he might have. Richardson. Let me start with Richardson.
Mm-hmm.
This was the first time all year that I saw him throw the football on time. That's really what it came down to for me. He threw it on time, and he wasn't looking for bombs every single play. Now, let me flip this over because, I personally, maybe I'm a little biased, sort of, in a weird way. I do think Joe Flacco would have beat the Jets. I think anybody would beat the Jets right now. That's just me.
I don't agree with you.
Here we go. We've talked about this defense. Run defense falling apart. We've seen that since week 1.
Jets, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tackling.
Bad.
Major issue.
Big issue.
But the one silver lining was that they could cover, and they didn't give up big plays like that. And I know Richardson creates them. I get it. I heard you. I know. First 5 weeks of the season, Jets led the league in coverage grade. Last 6 weeks, they're 28th. In this game, they had Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed and Michael Carter all healthy.
Yeah, not good.
They're not even covering now. So this defense, it's
a unmotivated football team.
And it's a very
unmotivated, unfocused,
I think on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
This is here's what I'll say with Richardson. I mentioned this to you before the show. My favorite thing as a coach when a player would do something right was they would come to me, man, coach, that was great, wasn't it? I go, yeah, do it again. Okay, cool. If he does it against Detroit next week, tough task, I know. I'm not going to totally judge him off a game against the Lions after a game against the Jets. Let's stack weeks now, right? Richardson, we've seen him do it.
I'm not against you.
Absolutely. And we've seen him do it against the Jets, which is a baby step, admittedly, because this Jets defense is just the whole Jets team is a train wreck. That's just where we're at now. And now the one thing they were still good at, we thought, now they're not even good at that now. So that's where we're at. Credit to him, it works both ways. One guy performs well, the other side doesn't. I'm throwing most impressive in here too because I absolutely love this guy. I've talked about him probably 3 or 4 times already in the last 6 weeks. Josh Downs is a star. That's where I'm at with 100%. This. 5 catches, 84 yards and a touchdown, 84 receiving grade. For the season now, an 87 receiving grade. That's 6th among wide receivers. He's one of the best slot receivers in the league, and all he does is get first downs.
Him and Jack Smith-Njigba right now, I feel like are on another level.
You know what I like too? Since week 4, okay, came back in week 3, struggled for a game, was working back into it. Since week 4, just again, if they don't already have the nickname, his nickname now is Josh First Downs. He's got 30 first downs since week 4. That's 5th in the NFL. His emergence, I think, has changed this offense, and Richardson looking in his direction because he gets open. He's just one of these guys that gets open. That's all he does, and I know I've mentioned it at least 3 times already on this show in previous weeks. This is a star now. And we thought coming into the year, okay, Michael Pittman's obviously their best receiver. He was obviously their best receiver last year, but Josh Downs is a difference maker, and he's the guy that they need to keep going to keep moving the chains. And Richardson needs to keep relying on to keep moving the chains because that was always my biggest complaint with Richardson. You're not accurate enough. You don't just move the chains. That's all I need you to do. The explosives are fantastic, but before we were getting explosives without first downs. If you get both on a consistent basis, you have something. But I think keep looking for Josh Downs because, boy, this stretches the games. It feels like he's always open.
I think people feel better about when Joe Flacco just kind of methodically moves the ball down the field. But then you would get games where he does not push it the way that you need to win.
In Flacco's defense, he was stuck playing the Vikings and the Bills.
No, and those are two good defenses. I understand. I understand. But you just said the Jets, if they've been able to do anything this season, it has been cover, right?
Not anymore.
Right, but not this game, right?
Not the last 6.
I think that Richardson's a reason why.
He's a reason, sure. Well, I think to say Flacco wouldn't have won this, I think either one of them would have beat the Jets. Oh, absolutely, either one of them would. And I think either one of them would have lost to the Vikings and the Bills. Those are better teams than the Colts.
I would agree with you on the last 2 games. I think Richardson won this game. I think he played really well. 80.3 passing grade, 88.5 adjusted completion percentage. That was the best mark that he has had in his career.
That's where I'm at.
Okay.
Stack him.
I'm not trying to say that you can't. I love the coach speak. I love the phrase. Great job. Do it again. I love that with Anthony Richardson. I think that's a great way to I think sort of encapsulate sort of what this game was for him. But there were a couple of times, I will say, where The touch passes failed him, and he missed some accuracy on even some smaller passes. But there was one pass. Oh man, I can't remember when this was in the game. It was like a deep crosser. It was a deep over to Michael Pittman Jr. It was on 1st and 10. I can't remember which quarter it was. And Richardson hikes the ball, and he gets a little bit of pressure in his face, and it's linebackers are flowing one way, and he has to fit it in between the linebacker and the safety at just a pinpoint, beautiful like ball placement. And he not only does so, he does so with a guy winning quickly in his face, and he doesn't even get to complete his drop. He just puts his weight on his back foot, and he flicks the football immediately, and it just went right to Michael Pittman Jr.'s hands. And it's plays like that where I go, Flacco can't do that anymore. Like, Flacco can't complete, like, those passes. Now, can Flacco give you the touch passes? Again, like, sure, maybe a little bit better than Richardson, but that's the stuff he can't do. He doesn't have the arm to do that anymore. Richardson does. Richardson's got the talent to be able to get you out of trouble. Now we need to see him get himself out of trouble more regularly, or maybe, better way to put it, put himself in trouble less. Great week. Do it again. Your most disappointing before we move on.
It's actually the other quarterback in this game. I think I know there's been talk about him coming back next year, and considering the way the team is now, I'm not sure why. Well, there's a lot of cash involved too, but we might be getting to the end of the rope here with Aaron Rodgers. And it's funny because...
Did you see his quote after the game?
What did he say?
Where he was like, oh, because they're going in the bye week. And he's like, bye week's coming at a good time. We get to rest. Oh. And he was like, we get to sit back and think about why we fell in love with this game. And it's like, oh, buddy. You're down bad when you start having, like, graduation goggles in week 11.
Another darkness retreat.
No, we're not doing another darkness retreat, but, like, going back to talking about being unmotivated, undisciplined, and just not really having a reason to play. Very clearly, if he's saying that out loud to the media of, and I don't know if he was saying a general we or if it was more of a him, because obviously he could retire after this year, but saying we've got to figure out and remember, like, why we fell in love with this game is like, damn, vibes are bad. Vibes are real bad.
He definitely looked better at the beginning of the season, and he's taken a lot of hits this year. But, and it's funny because the traditional stats in this game would tell you he went like 22 of 28, and I think threw 2 touchdowns, and they had a late lead and all of that. But a 50 passing grade, 2 for 5 on throws, 10-plus yards down the field. His average depth of target was 4.4 yards in this game. This offense is slants and checkdowns. There's no vertical. Even with Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams, now it's just he can't work the ball down the field now. He's now on 10-plus yard throws. He's in the bottom like 5 or 6 in accuracy on 10-plus yard throws. It's just there's no vertical threat even with the 2 receivers. And I think it's just a matter of he's been hesitant to throw the football downfield anyway, but now it's really scattershot. And I think there's going to be a lot of discussions about the Jets getting a quarterback in this next draft, which is not new because they're the Jets. But
I don't think a lot of people who are doing that.
Not preseason, we weren't doing it.
Yeah, no.
Now you have to really think about it. Even if he does for some reason come back next year, you have to have a plan. Yeah,
I am very closely getting towards, and it's it's not as guaranteed of a quarterback season this draft than it was, like last season with so many different quarterback options. And so I don't want to say it's quarterback no matter what for the Jets, but you're basically in a situation where if Aaron Rodgers comes back at all, he's coming back for 1 year. Like he's not gonna play beyond next year.
I don't even know that it would be the full year.
I think it would be to your advantage to draft a quarterback in the first round if you found the one that you liked, that you're okay with. And I think that all depends on who the head coach is going to be. What kind of offense you're going to run, what kind of connection could you have with the quarterback, all that kind of stuff. So it's just something worth noting.
Head coach and quarterback?
Are you Deion? Yeah. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, I know everyone's talking about us now. I'm just pipe dream.
And every single head coach opening, we're just going to go, Deion?
Just like that.
Deion?
If nothing else, it'd be fun, wouldn't it?
Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you like and subscribe the video. And if you don't have a PFF Plus subscription, you can get one to see all the premium stats that we talked about here on the show, plus the expert betting and fantasy advice over at subscribe.pff.com. The description is also right below, so if you are not a PFF Plus subscriber, you can come one today.